Liverpool rocked by shock twists on and off the pitch. Don't miss a second. Subscribe now for instant Reds updates, exclusives, and breaking alerts.
News headline: Alan Shearer names Liverpool and Man City combined 11 with only 3 of Pep Guardiola's stars. Liverpool hosts Man City in the Premier League this weekend, with Alan Shearer picking his combined 11 ahead of the Anfield clash, but only 3 of Pep Guardiola's men feature. Alan Shearer has named his Liverpool and Manchester City combined 11 ahead of the team's meeting at Anfield this weekend, with only 3 of Pep Guardiola's men making the cut. Liverpool heads into this weekend 6th in the Premier League standings, with Manchester City in 2nd, but trailing Arsenal by 6 points. A home win on Sunday would be a major boost to Arne Slot's chances of making the Champions League spots, but would severely damage the Etihad side's chances of winning the title. Despite the 8-point gap between Liverpool and Manchester City in the table, Shearer has put only 3 of Pep Guardiola's men in his combined team: Erling Haaland, Bernardo Silva, and new signing Marc Guehi. Bizarrely, the Newcastle United legend also picked Andy Robertson, even though Milos Kerkez is the #1 choice under Slot. Mohamed Salah was in amid a relatively poor campaign for the Egyptian, with Jeremy Frimpong selected at right back, even though he has missed much of the season through injury. Shearer's combined team in full, for Betfair: Alisson Becker, Jeremy Frimpong, Marc Guehi, Virgil van Dijk, Andy Robertson, Dominic Szoboszlai, Ryan Gravenberch, Bernardo Silva, Mohamed Salah, Erling Haaland, and Hugo Ekitike. 100%, Van Dijk replied when in a Sky Sports interview with Gary Neville if earning a Champions League spot is a must. "I want to play Champions League football, but everyone else wants to play that as well, so we're working very hard to make sure that we do that. But I still feel that this season could still be special. We're in the Champions League, we're in the FA Cup still. Obviously, a big game against Brighton next week, and the Champions League, we'll see what happens. But I feel that this season could still be special. Even after all the difficulties we had over the summer, during the first part of the season, injuries, I feel like this still can be something special. But we need consistency, we need to work, we have to enjoy it as well, because we are very, very privileged to be able to go out there every time, represent the club, and play good football." After taking on Manchester City, Liverpool travels to Sunderland next midweek. It then hosts Brighton in the FA Cup, looking to book a place in the 5th round of the competition.
News headline: Liverpool news. Arne Slot drops Virgil van Dijk hint as star is slammed in brutal comments. The future of Virgil van Dijk has been a talking point ahead of a massive weekend for Liverpool. Liverpool have the opportunity to earn back-to-back Premier League wins this weekend for the first time since December. The Reds clinched their first league win of 2026 last Saturday by defeating Newcastle United 4-1. Returning to Anfield on Sunday, it's Manchester City that awaits Arne Slot's side in a match that could have huge consequences for their chase of Champions League football next season. In the midst of their defensive injury crisis, Liverpool fans were offered somewhat of a reprieve on Thursday when Slot revealed that Joe Gomez could play a part in Sunday's clash as he continues to recover from a hip injury. The Reds are expected to start their natural center-back pairing of Ibrahima Konate and Virgil van Dijk against City, with the latter's future being teased by his head coach ahead of the match. Mirror Football delves into the biggest stories regarding the reigning league champions. It was midway through last season when Van Dijk signed a 2-year contract extension to remain at Anfield. With 16 months left on his deal, the Reds know that sooner or later a replacement plan must be set in stone to ease the departure of the legendary departure. The club have certainly prepared well thus far, given the signing of Giovanni Leone last season and Jeremy Jacquet earlier this week. Liverpool also brought in teenage defenders in Mor Talanaye and Ifeanyi Ndukwe during the winter window to bolster their defensive ranks for the future. However, Arne Slot teased in his pre-match press conference on Thursday that Van Dijk could very well remain at Anfield beyond the end of his contract next summer. Discussing Liverpool's plans for the future, Slot said, "You are longer here than I am, so if I tell you they do everything with a reason, you are not surprised. We never panic. It's always long-term and thought about for a long time, and not by just one person. We know Virgil won't play for 10 years, but he has a year left, maybe longer at us. He stays fit, and what a compliment that is to him he can play every 3 days. Hopefully he can stay fit for multiple years, but this club is not stupid. We do know somewhere in the upcoming years there is life after Virgil, but that is for every position. We don't think about short-term only, it is mid to long as well." Strange errors criticism. The Reds' captain has uncharacteristically made several mistakes this season, although only one of his errors has directly led to a goal in the Premier League, according to StatMuse. Regardless, it's been a below-par season for Van Dijk, who has been blamed for Liverpool's disappointing campaign by football icon Ruud Gullit. The Dutchman, who won the Ballon d'Or in 1987, urged his compatriot to improve his form, admitting he's witnessed mistakes made by the defender that he's never seen from him before. "I have been critical of Virgil van Dijk several times because he's the Liverpool captain. Put it this way, if there's an orchestra where the violinist is not performing well, I'm not going to be screaming at the violinist, I'm going to be pointing the finger at the director. He is in front of his performers and is responsible for when something goes wrong. I rate Van Dijk very highly, but he has made a lot of mistakes this season, with a lot of strange errors like the handball against PSV Eindhoven and the miskick at Bournemouth. These are things that I've never seen before from him. I really hope that Van Dijk sees and addresses these errors, knows that he has not been playing well, and can return to his best soon."
News headline: Jamie Carragher claims Pep Guardiola is replicating Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool exit strategy. Many believe we are witnessing Pep Guardiola's final months in charge of Manchester City, meaning Sunday's trip to Anfield could be his last in the Premier League. Jamie Carragher feels Pep Guardiola's actions and decision-making at Manchester City are similar to those showcased by Jurgen Klopp during the latter stages of his premiership at Liverpool. Speculation continues to mount over whether Guardiola will leave City this summer, with reports indicating the club is on the lookout for the Catalan's long-term successor. After a decade in Manchester, that is a seismic task for City's leadership group. It was a similar scenario that faced Liverpool bosses when Klopp left in 2024. On that occasion, the transition between coaches was seamless, with Arne Slot guiding the Reds to a Premier League title in his first season. Despite his departure, Klopp certainly played his part, particularly given the title-winning midfield of Ryan Gravenberch, Alexis McAllister, and Dominic Szoboszlai was assembled in the Germans' final summer at Anfield. Likewise, the uncertainty surrounding Guardiola's future has not tempered City's recruitment drive, as evidenced by the January arrivals of Marc Guéhi and Antoine Semenyo. For Carragher, he can see the similarities at City, and, writing in his Telegraph column, stated, "We are watching Guardiola's last dance in England." The clues are mounting up, pointing to the idea that he will end his Manchester City reign at the end of this season, with succession plans being formulated, and his club's recent transfer activity smacking of his hierarchy doing everything in its power to ensure he leaves with another trophy, he added. City appeared to be going out on a limb to make this season successful. Antoine Semenyo and Marc Guéhi are big January deals to deliver right here, right now, which adds to the sense they are in a race against time. But he knows his current side has not yet fully matured enough.
Like his great Premier League rival Klopp, there is a sense in the last few seasons of Guardiola feeling a responsibility to leave behind a reconstructed side for a successor, rather than having his replacement start again. Should Guardiola move on this summer, it will mean Sunday's trip to Anfield is his last as City boss. Carragher believes that Guardiola's revolutionary approach to tactics offers justification for some of Slot's recent controversial comments regarding style and trophies. Though there is some irony that Guardiola's opponent this Sunday, Arne Slot, was criticized this week for saying winning with style is as important for a manager's legacy as trophies. You only need to look at Guardiola's impact to understand what the Liverpool manager is getting at. Teams and their coaches are judged by their identity more than ever. At the elite level, they must win and deliver entertaining football to thrive and survive. City versus Liverpool is the most pure footballing fixture left in the calendar. Future City and Liverpool teams will be defined against the gold standard set, Guardiola having already stated that he will always consider his battles with Klopp as the defining rivalry of his time in England. Winning at a full Anfield has so far eluded him as City coach, so this could be his final attempt.
News headline: Arne Slot offers verdict on Liverpool transfer strategy after Jeremy Dijk. Let that be clear. Liverpool head coach Arne Slot has admitted the Reds were looking for reinforcements at the end of the January window, but he respects the long-term approach that is being taken. Arne Slot has confirmed that Liverpool was unable to secure the signing of Luciano Gertruida before Monday's transfer deadline, acknowledging his desire to strengthen the squad. However, the Reds boss maintains he feels no frustration over the club's inability to reinforce his options, as he now focuses on securing Champions League qualification without the additions he sought. Following January injuries to Connor Bradley, Joe Gomez, and Jeremy Frimpong, which further depleted a defensive unit already missing Giovanni Leone, sidelined with a season-ending ACL injury sustained in September, the Premier champion attempted to bring in cover through Gertruida, who captained Slot's side at Feyenoord. Nevertheless, a deal for the Netherlands international, currently on loan at Sunderland from RB Leipzig, proved too complex to complete so late in the window, and by Sunday evening, Liverpool had abandoned its pursuit of the 25-year-old. The Reds ultimately reached an $82 million agreement, or pounds 60 million, with Rennes to sign 20-year-old Jeremy Dijk, beating off fierce competition from Chelsea in the process. While Slot is thrilled to bring in the young Frenchman, who will join his new teammates from July 1, he also admitted he wanted reinforcements for the remainder of a campaign that sees them welcome Manchester City this weekend, while sitting in 6th place. I think I've said that we've tried to strengthen the squad, so that probably tells you I wanted players, and I don't think I was the only one who wanted that. But it's always about availability and the right player. We do have discussions about what is good for the short and for the long term of the club, and now, for example, Jeremy Dijk wasn't available for the winter, but he was for the summer. We've made a decision to sign him because we think he's a really good signing for the future of this club. I'm very happy with the squad, let that be clear, but it's all clear and obvious that we have 3 long-term injuries: Bradley, Leone, and Alexander Isak. That's why we've tried to strengthen the squad in the winter break, and the player you mentioned, Gertruida, in the end wasn't available. But we've tried to strengthen the squad, that is clear. And that tells you that we think that it would have helped us. But it should be possible that we're not going to sign players that are not good enough to play for this club. Despite seeking additional options to work with between now and May, Slot acknowledges the parameters that he operates within at Anfield. I have always worked the same. I always want the best for the club. Of course, sometimes there is interest from an individual. It could be a player or manager. But I always want the best for the club, even if, in the short term, it is not ideal for me.
I am not saying it is, but if it means this, I would always go for the signing that is best for the club. I knew which club I went into. This club has a model of signing talented players younger. I have always liked to work in that way. I am also the head coach and not the manager. I prefer this because the amount of work you have to do as a head coach is so much. I wonder how people could have done those two jobs. I don't have time to watch 10 live games of a new player coming in, and if I do, I cannot have time to do my job as a head coach as I am doing now.